Waking up in a camper van, making fresh coffee, and enjoying beautiful views in Iceland was my dream for years. And my experience in Iceland, traveling by campervan, was even better than I imagined. Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Leila, and in this video, I will share with you all the things I found important to know during our 7 days ring road trip in Iceland. I would say every season is the best time to visit Iceland, and here's why. During the springtime, you can enjoy the blooming flowers and encounter birds migrating back to Iceland. May is officially the start of the puffin spotting season. Summer is the most popular season to visit Iceland. In June, you can experience the midnight sun phenomena, where the sun doesn't set for days. You can already start chasing northern lights in autumn, avoiding freezing cold weather. In winter, there are less tourists. You can of course chase northern lights and enjoy beautiful winter landscape of the country. However, keep in mind that in winter, highlands is not accessible and many other roads might be closed as well. I will share how we experienced this tiny problem in our 1 week trip in Iceland. The average winter temperature is 0 to -10 Celsius degrees, and in summer it varies between 5 to 15 Celsius degrees, although it can go up to 25 degrees. No matter in which season you decide to visit Iceland, traveling with a campervan is always a great idea. It was our first camping experience. We were doubting whether to get it or not, but luckily we decided to go for it only 2 weeks before our trip. And it was the best decision ever. And traveling with campervan is not only very practical, but it's also a more affordable option compared to joining tours in Iceland or renting a car and staying in hotels. And you get the most flexibility. Is there a possibility to spot northern lights? Then drive there in the middle of the night with the comfort of having your hotel right next to you. Renting a campervan in Iceland is very straightforward. After carefully considering the cost and reviews, we decided to go with Camp Easy. We paid around 990 euros, including zero risk insurance, the highest package out there, extra driver option, airport pickup and drop off, and some accessories that we will use, such as inverter and extra gas can. They have 24-hour chat option in their website, and the agent helped me through all my questions before making this booking. We chose the Easy Auto option. They had new cars and we were the first one to use this exact campervan. But it was our first mistake. Although we had no big issue driving this campervan around Iceland, I think opting for 4-wheels drive would have been easier, as it was our first experience driving in winter as well. So driving on ice, challenging roads would have been easier and less stressful. I love that they gifted us neck warmers and sunglasses. We forgot to pack our sunglasses and we didn't even think about it, but we ended up using them almost every day. Once we arrived at Keflavik Airport, Eduardo, the agent from Camp Easy, picked us from the airport. We made a call and within 10 minutes he was there. It's a 10 minutes drive from airport. Once you're in the office, take your time, enjoy a cup of coffee. They will explain you everything and answer all your questions. From all the driving rules, things to be aware of, how to use certain items in your van, and etc. He advised us, and we are grateful that we listened to his advice to get extra collision waiver insurance. Right? I said it correct. So in case we got stuck in ice or needed any kind of roadside assistance, we would get it and it will be included already in this insurance. And needless to say, we got stuck in ice. I will come to that. You should know that no insurance in Iceland covers any damage done by the wild animals. So if you encounter animals, try your best not to trigger them. Now that we have our campervan, let's check inside. The front is very comfortable for 2. 3 can also fit, so we have seen groups of 3 people renting the same campervan. We encountered them in campsites, sleeping with 3 adults or 2 adults with 1 kid. It's also doable. But with bulky coats, all the snacks, thermos and everything, it was very comfortable for 2. There we have our tablet. It should always be charged and on. In case of emergency, they can track the van via connection to the tablet. We also have this tablet with a chat connected to Camp Easy agent to help us if we have any questions, and a navigation app which shows open campsites in winter and many other useful places. Relying on this navigation was our second biggest mistake. Twice it took us to a blocked road, and we drove an hour back and missed valuable daylight. Google Maps on our phones was more reliable when it came to impassable roads, but you should always check Safe Travel app and rely on that. Now, one thing to know, I figured out by mistake. I dropped something inside and then I didn't know how to take it out. There's a little click somewhere here. Hold it, pull up, back, voila. This is Webasto's heating system, so everything is here. This is the back side. This is the water tank. This is the water coming. Be careful with the splash. This is the... Then we have gas tanks here. We had extra, we didn't use it, we returned it, getting the money back. Here we have voltage. It should be at least 12 to use the heating system. We never had issue with that. If you have, you can just turn on the vehicle, wait it. Never use the Webasto heating system together with the you have to turn off the car and then use the heating. And we have lights here. All you need is here. You return them, you wash them, and you return them. Always when you drive, you have to always close them. I also brought our food and drink thermoses and mocha pot. We mostly had breakfast in the van and made tea and coffee during the day. Here is the sitting and sleeping area. It's quite easy to assemble the bed. We were provided with free duvets and bed sheets, and we could get more if we needed for free. I also packed extra sleeping bags in case heater didn't work or it wasn't warm enough, but it was sufficient. The first night, I woke up with a bleeding nose because it got too dry in the van. The other days, we filled the sink with water to increase the humidity to normal. I wish I also packed my portable humidifier. Keep that in mind if you're also sensitive to dryness. Another thing we were worried about was charging all the tools and devices we have. The van had enough sockets and we rented an extra inverter to use in the front. Keep in mind that you should use them only for batteries, like charging your phone, camera, drone. The electrical system of van cannot support devices like irons and hair dryers. Our campervan had everything we needed and was a perfect home for us for 7 days around Iceland. Driving in Iceland in winter can be challenging. Landscape can change so quickly within a day. The number one rule is always check the Safe Travel app before you travel, before you start your day, and also check it a few times during the day. We were disappointed twice. One of them was when we were driving to the second largest waterfall in Europe, Detifos, and the last 1 kilometer was impassable road. I got pretty sad and disappointed, but we said, hey, this is another excuse to come back to Iceland. Luckily, we didn't have an unusual thing happen to us in Iceland, like being close to volcanic eruption. If anything, you can use Safe Travel app to send your GPS location to emergency services or call 112. You can also upload your itinerary to Safe Travel website, so if something happens in Iceland, then the emergency service would know if you're in the impacted area or not. As I mentioned, highlands are closed during the winter. There are a few options you can make. You can spend a lot of time in south doing the Golden Ring. You can spend a few days in south, few days in west, both offering beautiful landscape. Or like us, you can do the whole ring road. Looking back, I wouldn't advise it. 7 days in winter is too short to do the whole ring road because daylight is also limited. I think it would be better if we had 10 days. But if you're visiting in summertime or spring when the day is long, 7 days should be enough. Sometimes the navigation is brave, trying to advise faster or shorter route. Try to ignore it and stick to the main road. We did not, and followed the road only to get stuck in ice. Even though the road was not impassable, it was not clean that day. We didn't panic because we know that our insurance would cover it. But we got sad because it means losing a few hours, our precious daylight. Luckily, within 5 minutes, we saw a road service car passing by, and the driver stopped to help us for free. Usually, the speed limit in Iceland is 50 km per hour in city roads and 90 km per hour on the main roads. The speed limit applies to the best condition, And in winter, conditions are seldom so good that you can drive according to the speed limit. We never had an issue filling the gas or finding a station on our road. Just make sure you fill your tank when it's already halfway through. You should always park your car in a dedicated spot. Download Parka.is app to pay for your parking and sometimes for your campsites. We never had an issue finding a parking slot whether we visited a popular destination or a campsite at night. But I've heard that it's more challenging and difficult to find a spot in summertime. People tend to get to the camper site quite early to reserve their spots. Keep in mind that parking near to the iconic destinations like Geyser or Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon can be very busy. It might mean that you need to park a bit further away and walk in the cold. You should always check the direction of the wind when you park your car. It can be very windy in Iceland. Park your van in a way that you're faced to the wind, and when you open the door, be extra careful. Also, check the ground before stepping out. We once parked on the ice and we didn't even notice it, and I fell immediately. We laugh about it now, but it was scary at the moment. During the trip, the van started signaling that the back doors were open. However, they were frozen, so we could not open nor close them. Luckily, we were close to a hot spring. Deildartunguhver is the highest flowing hot spring in Europe. You can feel the heat of boiling water behind the fences. Of course, we could not gather hot boiling water. Krama thermal spa is located right next to it, and the water flowing from there is warm. Elmer filled bottles with warm water, and as he poured it over the doors, they opened.
Yep, wow, it's happening.
You do not need hot boiling water to melt ice. Also be careful not to pour the hot water over the glass, as the rapid temperature change can shatter it. Now, let's talk about the most exciting part, campsites. In winter, many campsites are closed. Although options are limited, you will for sure find a place to sleep every night. We spent each night in a different campsite, and I want to share my experience with all of them. On our first day, we got our van, drove to Bonus to get groceries for the week, and visited Blue Lagoon in the evening. We spent a few hours there until it was closed. Our plan for the next day was to drive around the iconic Golden Circle, so we wanted to stay as close as possible to it. We drove nearly 2 hours at night to Thingvellir National Park. The campsite is actually closed in winter. It was advised to park and camp in front of the National Park Service Center on their website. You can find toilets facilities there. There's also a sink in open air where you can wash your dishes. You can pay for the night in the morning at the reception. It costs around 28 euros. In the campsites, you pay per person, and paying 28 euros for two sounded reasonable for us. It was our first night. The location was great. It was only a few minutes drive from the entrance of the Thingvellir National Park. If you also want to start your day close to the Golden Circle, I would definitely advise this campsite. We spent the second night at Selfoss campsite. In the evening, we went to Northern Light Hunt, and I got this picture. I saw that there's no activity, so we returned back. Only a few days later, I realized that there's actually aurora, and if we stayed longer, we could have seen better show. Since Selfoss campsite was bigger, it was busier, and I found facilities like toilet and sink a bit dirtier. We had breakfast in our van and washed our dishes in the kitchen of the campsite before hitting the road. We paid around 34 euros for this campsite. We had an amazing day chasing the most beautiful waterfalls on the island. Our last stop was Skogafoss, the famous Game of Thrones location. It's also possible to camp here and wake up next to this amazing view. However, the facilities were not that good and clean. I don't think there was even a shower, but we made sure to have dinner with this amazing view. We drove more than 2 hours to Skaftafell campsite. It was the cleanest campsite we stayed in during our whole trip. We took a shower, washed dishes, filled the water tank before hitting the road again for our day 4. We paid around 34 euros via the Parka.is app. We visited Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon in the morning. And if you stay at Skaftafell, then you get a 50% discount at the parking lot of Jökulsárlón. So instead of 7 euros, we paid 3.5. On our first night, we stayed at Egilstaðir campsite. In winter, most campsites are self-service. It had clear instructions on how to make payments using both cash and card options. Next day, we explored the eastern part of the island. Before ending the day, we went to Mvatan Nature Bath. During our trip, we usually took a shower after visiting various lagoons and hot springs, not relying on the campsites. It was warmer there, and you can use a hairdryer. Some campsites can be too busy with a line to the bathroom or not warm enough. In the evening, we camped near Akureyri. You will encounter the only toll road in Iceland driving from east to Akureyri. It costs around 13 euros, and you can pay for this toll 24 hours before the trip or after the trip via the tunnel.es website. I remember doing it right there while Elmer was driving through the tunnel. During our stay, Akureyri campsite was relatively busy, but campsite was not maintained well. The pavement around the bathroom and kitchen area was icy. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to spend around the northern part of the island. In the morning, we left immediately to explore the West Iceland. On our sixth night, we drove to Snorrastaðir farm holiday to camp. When we opened the door to leave the van, we saw the northern lights up in the sky. We drove a bit away from the campsite to enjoy it, avoiding all the light pollution. It was not the strongest aurora, but it still feels magical to spot them in the sky. We also liked the cleanliness and facilities in the campsite. On our last night, we stayed at Reykjavik campsite. Before parking there for the night, we visited Sky Lagoon to relax and enjoy the hot spring experience one more time. I will be honest, Reykjavik campsite was the worst during our stay. Sinks were outside with no warm water and toilet cabins were not heated. We were freezing there. And it was the most expensive one. We paid around 50 euros and it wasn't even that clean. The next morning, we woke up early, had breakfast at Grey Katurun Cafe, and drove to Camp Easy to return the van. You need to return your van by noon, and it wasn't that practical for us because our flight was the next day in the morning. So we almost had a whole day in Iceland. We filled the gas tank full and returned the van easily. As I mentioned, Camp Easy offered free airport drop-off. So instead of airport, we asked them to drive us to the Aurora Hotel next to the airport. This hotel is only a few minutes walking distance away from the airport. So, like us, if your flight is very early in the morning or at night, you can stay here. The thing is that windows are looking to the north and I could get a glimpse of Aurora even with all this light pollution. We rested on our last day, ordered dinner, watched movies and slept early for our morning flight. Honestly, I think I would have planned it differently if I knew that there was a dedicated time slot to return the van. You can watch my 7-day ring road vlog to see our whole route, the places we visited, and all the experiences we had. As I shared, it was our first camping experience, so we are not experienced with cooking while camping or traveling in a van. Every morning we had very simple breakfast, tea, boiled eggs, jam and bread. I'm so happy that I brought our camp mugs, large thermos and most importantly, mocha pot. We had unlimited coffee breaks and had coffee with beautiful views. We were more flexible for lunch and dinner. Sometimes we ate at a restaurant near to the place we visited, or we tried to prepare something in a van like boiling potato and sausage. Also, we couldn't use the fridge. So it was set on a freezer mode and we couldn't turn it to the fridge mode, and we ended up not being able to use some of the food we bought. Like we couldn't make a salad from vegetables because they were frozen. There wasn't a moment I did not feel safe in Iceland. Of course, there are some rules to follow. Keep the shelves locked when you travel. Double check that gas cans are stored in their right place and put there safely. Ensure that your phone always has battery and you can easily call 112 for any emergency services. It's also good to have your van rentals company number at hand. Never stop in the middle or on the side of the road, even if you spot northern lights. Always try to find a safe spot. During the year, many accidents happen because tourists didn't stop safely. And also, do not drive when you're tired. Switch drivers or stop as long as you need. I remember while driving to the east, we got very tired. The plan was to drive all the way, but luckily we decided to rest. We called this hotel and they welcomed us and served dinner. After resting a bit, it was easier to drive further. of course, keep your van locked. Although Iceland is a very safe country, it's always good to be extra safe than sorry. It's been almost a year since we are back from Iceland and I still can't get over it. I enjoyed this experience so much that after coming back from Iceland, I didn't want to travel anywhere. And now that we are a little bit more experienced, we are looking for campervan options whenever we travel to a new destination. Every day was a dream come true moment for me in Iceland, and I hope you will also have a wonderful time there. Last but not least, do not forget to subscribe to my channel, not to miss coming adventures. Happy travels!